Mission spirituality. A set of values, symbols, doctrines, attitudes, and practices which persons or a community attempt to make their own. It is a spirituality for men and women who consciously move beyond their own zones of security in terms of culture, social status, language, and location. It is a way of tapping into the infinite, life-giving, refreshing, and empowering presence of God's Spirit so that people's or a community's life can be lived in grace, gratitude, and growth. There is no one-size-fits-all mission spirituality. Mission spirituality, like mission itself, is always and everywhere a contextual spirituality. It will depend on where a person engages in mission, when a person engages in mission, and take into account one's experience and one's theological perspective. 7 questions that frame a mission spirituality. What scripture passage or passages anchor one's mission spirituality? Who are one's heroes or heroines as one engages in mission? What are the assets and liabilities of one's own culture as one crosses over to another culture? What is one's basic theological perspective as one engages in a missionary situation? What is one's experience as a missionary? What are some practices in which one might engage to deepen and develop one's life in mission? How does mission spirituality encompass social justice, a constitutive dimension of witnessing to the gospel? Scripture Foundation for Mission. Every spirituality needs to be rooted in Scripture, and mission spirituality is no exception. One needs to ask the question, therefore, what Scripture passages, books, or themes of Scripture are those that ground one's missionary life? Perhaps some examples may help. Recalling how Jesus commissioned the apostles and the disciples to go out to new cultures, to new experiences, to the poorest of the poor, in order to give witness, will keep the spark of missionary commitment alive. At times, missionaries might need strength and inspiration as they face new challenges. A passage such as the call of Peter, Andrew, James, and John may help. Perhaps meditating on Jesus' invitation to Andrew and Peter to come and see may shed light on how to approach a new situation. Oftentimes, one needs perseverance when confronted with different cultural attitudes. St. Paul's statement that he had become a slave to all in order to win more for Christ might refocus and give missionaries basic guidance. A missionary must always listen to the promptings of the Spirit. In the Acts of the Apostles, the Spirit challenges, calls, and pushes the church beyond its boundaries to include all peoples and all cultures in the plan of salvation. It is precisely this move of the Spirit that calls the community of Jesus to be church. No one passage of Scripture can fully express mission spirituality. One reason for this is the changing context of one's missionary service. Another reason is that the entire body of Scripture, Old and New Testaments, but especially the New, is the result of Israel's and the Church's reflection on the mission in which they have been called to engage.